Lead things off here. And, Coach, you went into this game not knowing exactly what you were going to get from three of your five starters against that zone defense, guys that just hadn't seen it before. What'd you think of how they handled it for the first time?
Well, I obviously can't complain. I thought, when you make shots, that helps. But I liked our movement and how we shared the ball and took a lot of threes, made a lot, but got a variation of some high-low passing, some back cuts, and some good, decent dribble penetration. So I think I don't have a stat sheet in front of me, but I think it was a 22 assist night, and just again sharing the ball. And when Sam and Trey and Jay are shooting like that, and the other guys making good decisions, I thought it felt right.
You had 23 assists on 29 made field goals for your team here tonight.
Yeah.
And I hate to bring up that which shall not be talked about, but when they started to put that press on, I'm sure anybody who was a part of that Syracuse game in the Elite Eight kind of had those visions pop into their head. But your guys really dealt with it pretty well after a little bit of a shaky start. How important was that for those guys to see that? And we talked about the growth from that tough game against Georgia Tech. I got to think maybe some out of that experience as well tonight.
Yeah, no, I mean, Syracuse has an ability to, as we've experienced firsthand in a real hard way, because they're so good in their zone at anticipating when they move it down the floor and press, they can kind of bluff. You think they're trapping, they cover stuff, they're long, and they put pressure. I didn't think we got to spots quite quick enough. Then we picked it up, had, a 2-on-1, when Reese drove and we didn't finish. I can replay almost every scenario, even the missed calls that I thought were crucial in that game way back. But I thought we were a little wobbly, but then we kind of got a couple stops with it, made a couple baskets, and then that was enough.
All right, Tony, I'm going to hand it off to a guy who has earned this. He is covering his last game.
Well, before Doug's asked a question, Doug, I want to say, well-deserved. Thanks for covering it. I know this is, how many years, Doug, has it been for you?
40. He covered the 1976 ACC Tournament Championship.
Unbelievable. Dave, enough from you. This is about Doug, not you, Dave, so quiet down. No, I got it. Doug, I just want to tell you first, what a service what you've done for the journalism industry. Thanks for following us faithfully. And I said the best compliment I can give you, and I said this before, is I see the way your daughter looks at you. I know how proud she is of you, and I got to know her through the years. And thank you, and you have a well-deserved break coming up. So your last game at JPJ, you saw a pretty good one, so I'm glad we didn't disappoint. Now don't ask a hard question, okay? Give me a softball lob.
Obviously, you lost to Syracuse here last year. Take anything away from that game? Was there anything you felt you had to correct?
Yep.
Or did you just have a bad night last year?
Yep. Geez, I couldn't even get thanks, Tony. That was a nice compliment you gave me. You went right to work at it. All right. That's how professional Doug is. It's amazing. So, no, you're right, Doug. Last year, that was a hard game. Last year we played in the very first game of the season and played well. And then down here, we had a hard shooting night. We're a different team. We could spread the floor offensively with the Sams, Treys, and Jays. Last year we struggled to shoot. And, we just had a rough game. It happened. And so certainly we learned from it. I watched that. I looked at things that did work, didn't work, and then tried to use our personnel strengths to play against it.
And if I might ask one more thing, what was your expectation for your three-point shooting coming into the year?
Well, I knew it would be a little bit like, from a couple years ago, we're going to get our shooting a lot from Jay, Sam. And, we didn't know Trey was going to be eligible. He was going to redshirt. But then when that happened, I'm like, okay, our kind of 5-4-3 or 3-4-5 position is where we can stretch the floor. So that's a little different. We got playmaking, and not that Kihei won't take threes and knock them down or other guys. But I thought we'd be able to stretch the floor with those guys and wanted them to shoot. I knew Sam could. Obviously Trey, and I've seen it with Jay. So I thought we'd be able to stretch it, and I knew that would be important. And, obviously at times you can't live by it, but it's an important piece of our offensive production.
Thank you.
Thank you, Doug.
Thanks, Doug. All right, now we'll open it up to everyone. We'll start with Jeff White, Gene Long, and David Teal.
Tony, Syracuse came in leading the ACC in scoring at 79.4 points a game. you held them to 58. It's not unprecedented for your teams to get better defensively as the season goes on, but what is this group doing specifically that it wasn't doing early in the year when defense seemed to be a little bit of an issue?
I think we're guarding the ball better. I think, Reese Beekman has done a really good job. He's really, guarded some terrific offensive players. And we say shooting can cover over a lot of mistakes. Well, on-ball defense. We said, shot blockers can erase a lot of stuff, which Jay has done at times, of course, last game. But on-ball defense can cover a lot of mistakes for your defense. And when Reese, is right, and Kihei, and then Trey is getting better, Casey Morcell last game, when those guys are sliding well and making it hard to get into the lane, boy, that helps. And I thought Jay did a good job last game. And again, today, Sam is a position-smart, tough defender. So I think that the improvement of that and the comfort with the system has helped our defense not yield as many easy shots and taking care of the basketball, Jeff. When you don't turn it over, they don't get as many runouts or transition baskets.
Hey, Tony, just wanted to ask you about Jay Huff's performance tonight. Obviously, really efficient, 8 for 11 shooting. Just your thoughts on his play this evening.
Yeah, again, Sam, you got, we had Trey on the wing who was stretching it. You had Sam we call it the mix, and he's in the high post, out of the high post. Jay is behind the defense, flashing in there. Kihei was, and making plays. So it put a lot of pressure on him. Jay's such a big target where he can slide up to the high post and you can throw it up, and then he sees things. He can see passes, he can shoot. So, I think he was really good, and then he did a good job defensive rebounding. So I thought, yeah, the efficient. I'm big on, are you an efficient player? And if you can be efficient with your stats, I think that's so important, and it was a very much so tonight for Jay and the other guys.
Tony, you're very much accustomed to 48-hour turnarounds from your time in the Pac-12.
Pac-10.
They are unusual. Excuse me. But they are unusual in the ACC, and they do mirror the NCAA tournament rhythm. What might you have learned, and might your team have learned with the Georgia Tech Syracuse turnaround here?
Yeah, no, I think you're wise. You look at what happened that was a hard-fought game against Georgia Tech. Sometimes in that day between will always be fairly brief. Sometimes you're real intense. Sometimes you're not as much, but just preparing well. And I always present that saying, look, if you're fortunate enough to make an NCAA tournament, this is how it is. How do you prepare in between? It matters. How do you meet the next game? And, mental and physical freshness is important, but being prepped. And I was concerned because that's the first time Reese, Sam, and Trey have ever played against that zone, and then to only have a day of prep for it, was something there. But we, again, preparing for Georgia Tech and having the week where we didn't play NC State, where there's some things we had in mind, so I think that possibly helped as well.
All right, next 3, Bennett Conlon, Preston Willett, and Jerry Ratcliffe.
Coach, it's the second time in the last 3 games, I believe, that your team has had at least 20 assists. I was curious, is that just a matter of improved shooting, or is there something ball movement-wise that you really liked over the last couple of games?
Well, I think they have I think we shot the ball obviously so well against Clemson, but they really have a next pass mentality that you can see and the ability to shoot. And against Syracuse, against a zone, you're probably going to have, if you're playing well, higher number of assists. So that was there, but Clemson was there. I don't know how many we had against Georgia Tech. Some defenses just require different stuff. But yeah, no, I like how they're sharing the ball, moving it, and creating for each other, and then taking the shots out of there. That's really important. That assist-to-turnover ratio and being efficient in that is huge for the offense.
Tony, Sam tied a career high with 7 threes tonight. What have you just learned from him? I mean, maybe it's just a Wisconsin shooter thing, but what have you just seen from him as he's learning, growing in this system?
He's good in a lot of areas. He understands. He had a little back tweak or spasm to start the game, so he was struggling. We weren't sure in warm-ups how he was going to be, but he settled in, and I think he's getting more comfortable. I think you can see that. He's not passing up a shot when it's there. It's in rhythm. Got a couple blocks, so we've got to keep him humble. He should have shot faked, and he could have got in there. But He moves the ball, he thinks team first, and we're telling him, hunt the shot, be assertive, be aggressive, play off that. And, he's been obviously a great addition. We knew that watching him in practice last year, and then he's certainly showing that.
Hi, Tony. You're 8-2 against Syracuse, and I was wondering, have you found the answer to beating that unique 2-3 zone? You guys operate so well against it.
No, I mean, we've had, well, we didn't find the answer to go to the Final Four. We did, and then we had trouble against the press since someone else brought that up. I think it was Kane. Thanks, Dave. But I think, you have different attacks, different personnel against any zone, but theirs is so good. It's the ability, to make some shots, touch the high post in different ways, penetration, passing, and, obviously this time we were a little different than we've been in years past, and that was more based on our personnel. But usually good games. Today was one of those that was, there. And probably one of my greatest memories is I can't remember how many years ago, but here when we won our first outright ACC regular season title, that atmosphere, that game. And we've just had some good wars. It's a great zone team, against a man-to-man team. So I always kind of challenge our guys jokingly. I say it's good versus evil. I said man-to-man's good, evil, but the utmost respect for Coach Boeheim and what he's done with that zone and the length. And, there's some days just where it's the shots are going in and you try to exploit it, and that's what we did.
We'll take our last question for Coach from Mike Barber.
Hey, Coach, with Virginia Tech coming up, a lot of the other coaches in the ACC kind of mentioned the similarity to the way they now play defensively to what you guys do. Do you see that in what you've seen out of Virginia Tech?
For sure. I think they're a hard-nosed, tough team playing good basketball. Again, they went to Syracuse, and that's why Syracuse played really well. And, again, they didn't knock down shots, but I think they play hard. Coach has done a good job. I really respect the job that Coach has done and how they're defending and how they share the ball, and they play really hard. So, watching them, they're doing some, look, I'm sure they have variations, but good defense is good defense, man-to-man. You're in position, you're playing hard and making the other team work to get good looks, and they've certainly done that.